All right, so this is a tutorial on how to make a collage using Rhino to Photoshop. Um, so right now what we're looking at is my student's project, which he calls the bug project. And what I've done is that I've selected all our roof, all our materials, and labeled them into roof, accents, wall, and bases. And I created a view called Material ID, so that way when I'm working on when I'm working on the project, I can take a screenshot of the material ID and edit only what's colored. Now, right now, material ID is showing some of these grids. What I can do is that, actually, before I do that, first go to Tools, go to Options, in your display mode, select Shaded, and make a copy of this. Once you have a copy of your display mode shaded, you'll basically rename it into Material ID and copy all the settings. Right. Once you have all these settings, you can go to your display right here, scroll all the way down, and you can remove your grid, your seaplane, and your world icon, which is this little icon right here. So that way when you take a screenshot, right, take a screenshot, you don't have these lines in the way. Now, what I want to do right now is that I'll set my view into 2-point perspective. So that way my lines, the walls of my lines will always be straight. Create like a 6-foot tall box. Right. Type in ZS to zoom select. So we're at the midpoint. I'll align this box into the middle of the project. Again, ZS. And then we'll use our control, or if you're on Mac, you'll use command, and you'll use your control and your arrow keys to go up and down. So this is roughly 6 foot of the view. And then from here, I can just scroll back out. Now, your lens length, it will be set to whatever you have. The human eye detects roughly 22 or 20 to 27. So in this case, I'll be using 25 for my lens length. Right. And I can save this view. So if I'm leaving it, I can save this view on named views, which is just camera lens. So you just click on this, type in named views. So that way when you're leaving out of this, you can just double click and it'll return you back to this view. From here, you'll type in make 2D. Select the objects you want to draw. Press enter, and you'll make these make 2D make 2Ds settings. Once you have that, you'll be given some of my views. You'll be given this right here. So what I've done is that off screen, I basically did my best to make this look as clean as possible. I know there's some flaws right here. I'm just going to ignore that. Right, there's only so much I can do. Right, and then I'll put this line as my grade right here. Now, what you're going to do is that you'll select this. You'll select this and you'll export this. So export selected, and export this as an Adobe Illustrator file. So what ends up happening is that when you have your Adobe Illustrator file, you only have lines and no white background. Now, heading back to this view right here, right? We're going to do is that we're going to go to Material ID, and then we will take a capture view, right, to file, and what we'll do is that you'll have your Material ID as a file. All right, so now that we're on Photoshop, we'll open our Material ID, not our Material ID, our lines, right, our Adobe lines. I'll set this to inches. I don't care how big it is. I'll basically crop the canvas into 11 by 17 or maybe 8 by 8. All right, so this is our project. Right now it's really small, and it's perfect because right now we only want to see, second zoom in. we want to barely see our lines, right? So that way it'll give us more control over our project. Okay. And it's also a transparent background as well. Now to edit the canvas, we'll go to edit or image, image, and then we'll go to canvas size, and we'll head to inches, and I'll set my canvas to, originally I wanted 11 by 17, but I'll set this to 17. The height will be 11, and then I'll press OK. All right, so this is our canvas, and right now we cannot see any objects, right? But we know our line is still here. So this is our work. There's an invisible line, very thin. I might have, let me check. No, all right, so it's all here. And I'm going to rescale this until it fits nicely proportional or compositely wise into my project. All right, so now your project should look like this after you organized everything. From here, all you're doing is that you're basically watching another video on Photoshop, or you're watching another video on Illustrator and onto Photoshop. But right now, there are many videos out there. What I've done is basically set up the premise, right, to import your lines into Photoshop so you can start working on it. And if you still have your material colors, you can basically input that as well, right? So that way, if you need to select a certain color that's distinct, right? And you don't want to rely too much on the lines, and you do have your material colors right here. If I can scale this appropriately. Somewhere like this. Then yeah, you can use this as a way to select certain materials, right? So you can turn this off and then take your magic wand tool, and select like a certain color. What I forgot to do is turn off the ISO curves. So these are ISO curves right here onto the project, and that may be an issue, but it's fine. So this is one way to edit if you don't like to work with lines. And if you are working with lines, then here's your lines.